Last time I tried to do this, I um, yeah, it wasn't a terribly efficient sharing of information. So I cheated and I used this as a prompt to pre-record a video, and it's precisely 5 minutes. I'm very proud of that, down to the frame. Um, every frame does not count, but it'll count well enough. Anyhow, I've been interested in making more and more materials for my teaching. I've done very little video stuff for that, which is weird. But anyway, this was a prompt, a shove over the cliff to do stuff. So here comes my 5 minute video about a thing that I take for granted, and I think other people will take for granted. But I find very often that I run into too many students who don't understand this. So here it is. I think hopefully everybody can see this fabulous typography setup, making a poster in Photoshop, Illustrator, and Acrobat PDF. And I don't think I can mute my mic and keep my audio going. So I'll just try not to talk for the next 5 minutes and go. Most posters are going to have raster art as key art in it, and you may be creating that from scratch in Photoshop or creating a collage from multiple pieces, or you may be rendering something straight out from your game engine or other source. But let's look at the file size and how we might set that up. So let's open a new file. We're going to make a poster, and this is going to be a 2-foot by 3-foot poster. We're going to care about inches right now and say it needs to be 24 inches wide and 36 inches tall. And here's where we set the math for the quality of the print. And we're going to pick 300 dots per inch or pixels per inch. You can do centimeters if you want, but we'll stay imperial. You can see the actual pixel dimensions of this image if we switch to pixels, and you can see that it is going to be 7200 by 10,800, which is the math of 24 by 300 and 36 by 300. Gets you both of those dimensions. For every 300 pixels of your image, 300 times the print head on the printer is putting a dot of ink down to match the pixel dot in your digital image. We're going to go to CMYK instead of RGB because we're going to print, and print is a 4-color process, so we want to be in that color space. We make it and we're ready to go. Let's make a poster in Illustrator. We're going to make a poster size. This is going to be a 2-foot by 3-foot poster, so 24 inches by 36 inches. And just in case we have some raster effects, which are common, we're going to set that to be 300 dpi. We're going to print, so we're going to use CMYK color. And right now, let's not deal with bleed, but we can add that later if we want to. If you want to change the file size, you can go up here and go to Document Setup and edit artboards from here. Double click on this, and you can change your artboard dimensions here. This is going to determine the size in the PDF that you export. You can also get to it here from Edit Artboards and double click on that. If you need to change the raster effect in Illustrator and the resolution of that, it's under Effect, Document Raster Effect Settings, and here you can change from 300 dpi to something else if you wanted to. With our Illustrator file set up and our line art and other logos and text in place, we can bring in our raster key art. Illustrator is a vector program and doesn't really care about the dots per inch until you rasterize something. So when you first bring in your 7200 by 10,800 raster image, it's going to be huge. Once you scale it, then it'll fit right into place, and it'll maintain print quality when you bring it into a PDF format ready to print. If you were to bring in a pixel image that automatically tucked in exactly the right size, Illustrator basically works on a default assumption of rasterizing to the screen at 72 pixels per inch, and your raster image would be woefully low resolution and would dramatically reduce the quality of the print. It just simply wouldn't have enough data to put enough ink and enough detail in all the right places. When looking at PDF file size, we need to look at a couple of different things during the export process. We want to go File, Save As, select Adobe PDF, give it the file name and location we want. The Illustrator default preset will preserve full editing capabilities within Illustrator and will not downsample any of your raster images. Those are the primary things we're going to look at here. For high quality print, it's a good default to turn to. I've recently worked with a file that if I didn't uncheck the preserve editing capabilities, I got a full 500 meg PDF file out of this, and using the high quality print, which double checks compression above certain thresholds. If an image is higher than this resolution, it will downsample it to this resolution with some amount of compression. And when you save this out, you're going to maintain a high quality image suitable for printing, and you'll keep your file size down to a manageable result. The 500 meg example, by making those presets of the high print and taking away the editing capabilities, got it to 30 meg. Very reasonable and manageable. No fun if it repeats, but there you go. 5 minutes of PDF gold or something like that.
Very nice, very nice. Also, I have to concur with the rest of the chat. I was getting some serious Mob Ross vibes there, gotta say. Yeah, so should we do questions after each one, or should we keep going? How should we? What do you want to do, Rob?
Does anybody actually have a question for me about making a PDF the right size?
What does raster mean?
What does raster mean? So the difference between raster art and vector art. Raster is pixel by pixel image. Think back to your classic 8-bit sprite images in early video games, and retro as well. Whereas vector is the opposite. It's parametric. It's defining mathematically points and curvilinear lines in between them. So one is pixel by pixel, and one, so you can see, this is why I recorded a video, because I will go off on this stuff. So this is why you always make a logo in vector format, so that you can scale it as small as the image you want to put on a pen or as big as the side of a building, because vector is all infinitely scalable. Raster is not, and that's why this relationship, I used to give this as an interview question, which stunned me that I had to when I was hiring for my lab. It's like, if I need an image that's going to print at 4 inches by 5 inches, and I'm going to print it in 300 DPI, what is the pixel dimension of that image?
That's funny. There's actually a record label called Raster, and they do like really glitchy electronic kind of beep boop, white noise and beeps kind of music. So it kind of fits the aesthetic. I didn't know that was an actual word.
Yeah. So Photoshop is a raster editor, though it does now have vector format stuff in it. GIMP and other image editors like that are raster graphics, pixel by pixel, versus a vector, which is scalable. So again, a great example, Michael, of a really fundamental thing that, like, this is stuff that I don't even think about anymore, because
I had no idea.
Yep.
And for me, I grew up as a digital immigrant, right? I lived in my professional life in a world where going from between digital and physical prints was commonplace. So literally, this stuff was every day. I dealt with this kind of stuff, but more and more, each generation is more and more of a digital native, and this is why I had to make this video, not necessarily for this community, but you're the guinea pigs of it. I run across many game students who never had to deal with this concept, and when I have them make posters for like their senior project, this is something they stumble on, even though it's really fundamental. And again, it's one of those stupid things that old people like me take for granted. And there you go. So
I'll say for my part that, like, I knew the difference between, like, say, pixels and vectors. I had just never, until I started teaching a class on it, I had never heard the term raster before. But as soon as like it was explained, I was like, oh, okay, I know what that is.
Yeah, the weird things you have to pick up.
Raster as opposed to vector.
Yes, exactly. Raster and vector, they're like a buddy cop movie. All right, and thanks for the idea on the ASMR channel. I think maybe there's a future there. I wasn't like recording in the middle of the night. I was in the middle of the day. I could have gone full voice, but apparently this is how I talk when I'm trying to teach somebody something and walk through something. I sort of slip into that voice.